In a village in the east, there was a ruthless yet wise king. He ruled his people with strict principles and deep understanding, leaving no one able to stand against him. The king had a single son, a 6-year-old prince, and a wife, the queen, whose beauty was unmatched. The king had married her not only for her beauty but also because they shared a loving relationship, living a happy life together. The king had a passion for hunting. Despite the dangers, he enjoyed venturing into the forest, even though he was the king and had much to lose. His closest servant Ikemefuna often accompanied him on these hunts. Ikemefuna admired the king, despite the challenges that came with being close to such a powerful man. Sometimes the queen would plead with the king not to go hunting, reminding him that he had people to rule, not animals. But the king would always reply with a smile, "The animals help me rule my people better," and the queen would burst out laughing while the prince would shake his head, amused by his father's odd habit. One day, the king and Ikemefuna ventured deep into the forest. When the king spotted an animal, he prepared to shoot, but Ikemefuna offered to help. The king refused, insisting on doing it himself. However, the king missed the shot, and the animal fled deeper into the woods. Determined, the king pursued it, ignoring Ikemefuna's warnings to be careful. Finally, the animal paused to graze, unaware that the king was aiming at it again. Just as the king was about to shoot, he slipped on the grass and fell, his finger getting caught in a trap that had been set on the ground. The king cried out in pain and Ikemefuna rushed to help him, but it was too late. The king's finger had been severed. The king was furious. He was now left with 9 fingers instead of 10. Ikemefuna apologized profusely, saying, "My king, I'm sorry. But remember, everything happens for a reason. This may turn out for your good." Enraged by this response, the king snapped, "For my good? Losing a finger is for my good?" In his anger, the king ordered Ikemefuna to be thrown into the palace prison, vowing that he would never see the sun again. Despite this harsh punishment, Ikemefuna remained calm, trusting in the god he served. Back at the palace, the queen scolded the king. "I warned you to leave hunting alone, but you didn't listen. What if something worse had happened?" The king reassured her. "It's just a finger, my dear. I'll be fine." The prince added, "Dad, please stop being so stubborn. Listen to Mum." But the king only replied, "Hunting keeps me sane, so don't take it away from me." And the queen hugged him in support. Once the king had fully recovered, he decided to go hunting again. This time, without Ikemefuna, who was still locked in the palace prison. The king ventured deep into the forest alone. During the hunt, the king was captured by a group of cannibals. They took him to their village and laid him down, preparing to sacrifice him. But when the priest inspected the king, he noticed the missing finger. "Who brought this man here?" the priest asked. The cannibals answered, "We did. We found him in the forest." The priest shook his head and said, "A man who is not whole cannot be used for sacrifice. Release him and find me a complete man." The king was immediately freed and ran back to the palace. Upon arriving, he ordered the release of Ikemefuna and apologized for locking him up. Ikemefuna smiled and said, "If I hadn't spoken that day, you wouldn't have locked me up. And if I hadn't been in prison, I would have gone hunting with you. And when they saw you were missing a finger, I would have been the one sacrificed." So you see, everything truly happens for our good. The king nodded in agreement. "You're right. Everything does happen for our good." To anyone listening, whatever situation you find yourself in, know that it happens for your good. Praise God in your low moments and watch how He turns things around. Your situation does not define you. The better part of you is yet to come.